When I started, I was afraid, I was worried, I didn't like cold calling. You have to provide some value to the person who's going to be listening to you. The main thing with cold calling, a lot of it is mental, whether we believe it or not. It's not just about the right script, the right tonality, the right openers. You need to do the dials. There is no way around it. If there's one thing I want you to take away is
Alrighty, fellas, Dylan here, and welcome to another video. In this video, I got a client and good friend of mine named Meshari, who, even though like literally 6-7 weeks ago, was scared to cold call to the point where people would actually answer the phone and he would hang up on them instead of them hanging up on him, has able to go through a complete turnaround, sign 10 new clients through cold calling in just the last six or 7 weeks alone, and take his agency from zero and just getting started and not having any money coming in to crossing an actual six-figure run rate in just the first couple of weeks / month with his agency. So what he has done for you guys is he's prepared an entire masterclass of exactly what's working with cold calling today. So not yesterday, not last week, not last year, and going to give you guys tangible and actionable advice that you could implement in your cold calls tomorrow. So hopefully you could have at least some of the success that he has had, even though he's just a complete beginner.
yeah, boys. So basically, as Dylan just said, when I started, I was the one hanging up on people. It was that wild. But getting right into this, some of the things that we're going to cover just at the start, my journey, how I got into this agency game, and how I really just overcame my initial fears and challenges with cold calling. Then I'll get into some advice and strategies that I use, like understanding the person on the other side of the phone and setting yourself apart from other cold callers. All right. I'll also share some of the key frameworks and tips that I use to structure my cold calls, maintain the right mindset, and handle objections, because those things matter, right? Finally, I'll just wrap it away with some key takeaways, some actionable advice they could actually get out of these videos and go do it, and then get back with some booked appointments. So getting, right into here. My name is Meshari. I'm 18 years old. I run an agency that's doing almost 20 grand per month now in the plumbing niche. And my story is a little weird. Before I got into the agency game, I was in drop shipping, and before that, I was selling candy at the park. So to say the least, business has always been something that I enjoyed and loved doing. Now, a little of how about I got into the agency game when I was transitioning from drop shipping into the agency game. I came across Dylan and the Relentless Success Club. I binge watched a lot of his videos, joined the $100 first client challenge, but I didn't go too well, as I hoped. I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting, Dylan come around, hold my hand, get my clients for me, and do everything. I was stretched too thin between my poor time management and everything else. It's a common problem that many people have, including myself more than anyone. I'm sure Dylan sees that and he hates it more than me. So I kept watching the videos, trying to do it on my own. I didn't really see a lot of success. I did manage to close a couple of clients, but wasn't consistent. Low retainers, absolutely terrible compared to the work that I was doing. I knew I could do better. That's when I invested every single dollar to my name to join this and joining this community as a whole. I had no way to make the second payment until I closed someone to be able to afford that, right? The fear of not being able to pay the second payment combined with the desire for success is really what pushed me to work harder than a lot of people would. Go the extra mile, do the cold calls. As Dylan mentioned earlier, I was the one hanging up on people, so the difference between now and then is substantial. So that, being worried about not achieving my goals and being driven by success is one of the main things that really helped me. My fear helped me more than anything. So now that I've covered a little about my journey, here's the main thing, more about cold calling. So when I started, I was afraid, I was worried, I didn't like cold calling. I don't think anyone does, just like many of you. But honestly, that was one of the main reasons that helped me out those first couple of dials. It'd be like something like this. Hey, this is Mashari with MB Media, and then I'd hang up on them. Didn't make sense, right? I mean, imagine being the second person, getting a phone call, expecting a job as a plumber, and then someone telling you their name, the name of their company, and then just hanging up on you. Doesn't make any sense. No wonder I wasn't seeing any results, right? Afraid of, staying where I am and obviously not achieving my goals. You could be more afraid of making the cold calls, or more afraid of not seeing what you're working towards and everything else that you have planned. Whichever one you're more afraid of will dictate your actions. If you're more afraid of making the cold calls, then not being the person that you want to be, not doing the things that you want to do, you know, you're never going to be that person. But if you're more afraid of not becoming this person, cold calls will will be nothing compared to that, because that is so much worse, right? So, don't want to sacrifice your dreams, but you have to do the cold calls. Now, I'm not just saying this to be cliche. The main thing with cold calling, a lot of it is mental, whether we believe it or not, right? It's not just about the right script, the right tonality, the right openers. It's about doing it whether, you like it or not, whether people hang up on you or people book in, right? No matter what happens, you're still there, picking up the phone, dialing like you're supposed to be doing, right? I could tell you all about tonality, the scripts, the lists, everything else, but it just doesn't matter if you're not doing the dials. And also, it doesn't matter if you don't have the right mindset. Get going into cold calls, you'll never succeed. No, you'll never succeed no matter what, no matter what you do. So stop wasting your time with a bad mindset. Stop wasting your time on things that you shouldn't be doing, and finding things to just waste your time on to feel productive. No matter what niche you're in, as long as your prospect has a phone number that you can call, cold calling will work, whether there's a gatekeeper or not. This doesn't mean that in some niches will work the same as others. Some niches will do better, but as long as they have a phone number and you can dial them, it will work. Chances are it will work in your niche. So stop wasting your time and get into cold calling. Now, to get more into this, here I have some of the strategies that I have. And one of the main ones is being useful. You have to provide some value to the person who's going to be listening to you. You got to give them a reason to stay on the call, right? This has worked wonders for me. And multiple of my clients I have now because of this, providing value, because I was useful, telling them what they could do to improve their processes, what they could do to get more phone calls and everything else to fix their Google profile, no matter what it could be, right? This was just a way to get my foot into the door. And this was one of the main ways that I was able to just build trust and authority. And here I actually have an example. Don't laugh at this, it was a couple months ago. But you could see how this person, which is actually a client now, pushed me away, saying that they have someone else. They hired him last week, but a couple days since we got on that call, it seems like there wasn't any other person anyways, right? So listen to this and you'll see exactly what I mean. Oh, we just got started. We already hired he was gonna be you on social media and all that stuff. Beautiful, beautiful. And you're looking on the website right now. How long ago did you hire him? A week more? About a week ago. Well, it's been a Thursday, so Thursday, beautiful. Glad to hear. Listen, you hired him, so I guess I'll just give you some tips because I only work with plumbers and I get different things that can help you out to meet probably take it. Make sure you check all the reviews. Check a lot of reviews. Very often, like the volume of reviews that you're going to have, using a lot of reviews, a lot of them. And very easy. See all of your reviews you got within the next 2 weeks, so that's beautiful. If you're running ads, don't run anything other than level 3 ads. If you're doing SEO, realize that it's probably not going to work because Google's algorithm is not people to do SEO, it's for people to run ads. Google individuals if they want to ban it. And make sure that your pickup rate, like the second that someone calls your phone, is very high. Those are some of the things, some of the basics that we measure with all of my clients, which is working very well for us. So I just want to leave you with that. Sounds good? You have a company or something? Yeah, so I run my own company. I only work with plumbers. So you can see here after I dropped a bunch of value telling him, hey, do this, do X, Y, and Z to help you get more phone calls. That's when he ended up asking me, hey, do you do this yourself?
For sure. And I want to add something on that too, because everybody hears the concept of, oh, we need to provide value. Oh, we need to provide value. But people don't actually know what that means, right? And if you've never been able to deliver value on a setting call, a cold call, a sales call, it's hard to understand what value is. Well, value is going to come in two forms, right? The first way is like tangible value, which is like, okay, you got them clients, or you delivered them something of value, which obviously you're not going to be able to do on the sales call, right? And that's, I think, where a lot of people get caught up. But the second part of that is information value, right? Like people, if you're watching this video right now, you are getting value out of this video because you're learning new information that you've never heard of before. But once you've already watched this video and you've obtained all the information, all of a sudden the information is not valuable to you anymore. So basically, in order to create value on the cold call, what we need to do is we need to deliver information that they have never heard of before. So one of the things that I like to do and I like to talk about is, coming up with a new opportunity and coming up with some, rare information about your niche that you could deliver to them on the sales or on the cold call. Because if you try and deliver value by sharing information that they already know, they're not going to perceive you as valuable because they already know it. So making sure that when you guys are doing your cold calling and you're trying to deliver value, just like Meshari has done here, the reason why this guy perceived them as valuable is because he had never heard of the technique of replying to reviews to be able to actually, get more calls and boost your SEO and to get more traffic to your website. And as a result, get more plumbing jobs.
100%. And, just like Dylan just said, one thing that always catches my attention is if you know that information, it'll never be valuable again. One example he gave today in the inner circle call, which are always valuable, it's if you read the same book and you paid $20 to read it the first time, it's useless to you the second time and you won't pay the same price because you have that information. So look at what they don't know, what they are missing, and provide that to them up front. And they could only imagine the type of information that they're going to get once they start working with you, let alone the sales call. This is going to help you with your show up rate and everything else. And too many people are skipping on this. Just because they say they have someone else that is already doing this doesn't mean that they do. Maybe you're just missing the point with the cold calling. Maybe it's you not providing value. But what they say more times than not is not the truth. The second point that I wanted to cover here is stop being too desperate, right? Like no matter what, like nobody likes someone that keeps begging and begging and begging. They don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think anyone likes it, right? So stop being too desperate to book them in. And, you're going to have the problem, with the service or whatever it could be. So you need to detach yourself from the end result and just optimize for it. Detach yourself from, hey, I need to book X amount of people in today and optimize to book that many people. And just because you don't book it doesn't mean what you've done is bad. Because, the results that I've gotten today alone, closed two clients today, doesn't mean it's because of what I did today. It's because of what I've been doing over the past couple of months, right? So stop being too desperate to get some quick wins through the door and realize that this whole journey is all about you becoming a better person, whether it's in business, whether it's in whatever avenue it could be. This is about you becoming the person that you want. I don't think your goal is to be the best cold caller in the whole world. It's to build a big business that is solving problems in the world. So stop being too desperate to book people in and give them a reason to book in rather than anything else. And this ties in with the second point right here, which is sell the meeting, not the
Well,
service.
I actually have a funny story that I want to add to that on the don't be too desperate. So, not many people know about this, especially online, but I have a now 14-year-old brother. And when I was still living at home, we used to have this basketball hoop out front. And my brother, when he was readily available and could go and play basketball whenever he wanted, never played basketball. Now, funny story, one day we were playing like Tetris in the family driveway because we had like 4 or 5 cars. We were trying to fit like one in the garage, and then we were like parking on an angle, like all this kind of stuff. And there was like 2 cars being driven, and my dad was like up at the top of the driveway being a dad, giving directions, and I ended up backing into and taking out the basketball hoop, and it's just like onto the driveway. Now we didn't have a basketball hoop anymore. Now, from that moment on, all of a sudden, my brother desperately wanted to play basketball. And it's because fundamentally people want what they can't have, right? And if people know that they could work with you whenever they choose, whenever you want to, because you're just ready, waiting to take their money, and they're just, work with you whenever, the actual demand that you create for yourself to actually attract people to want to work with you is very low, right? But if you don't sound too desperate and you tell people that, like, hey, I don't even know if I can work with you, I just wanted to reach out because I thought there was a possibility. And when you have that frame and you truly, give off that aura about you when you're going through your entire sales process, you're actually going to close a lot more people than if you're desperately trying to get the close.
100%. And one thing that ties in with this, Noah always says this, is rather than being so desperate, just be so abundant. It forces people to be scarce in your presence. Stop being so desperate for the client and be useful and abundant to a point where people would want to work with you, right? That's one of the main things that helped me out too. I was so desperate for the bookings. I was booking anyone in. They weren't showing. It was hurting me in the back end, but hey, I thought I was doing good. Just doesn't make any sense, right? So the second point that ties in into this is sell the meeting, not the service, right? Too many people want to sell the service before they even get into the meeting itself, which just completely doesn't make any sense. The whole point of the cold call is to get them into the next stage in your pipeline, right? So it goes from the cold call to the meeting, you sell them from the meeting, and then you deliver, right? So it doesn't make sense when you're just trying to do from a cold call to, just selling them on the service. Just doesn't make any sense. You're missing one of the core pieces there, right? So always sell the meeting, not the service. And if you just do it the other way around, it simply is not going to work, especially when you're trying to provide as much value, right? When you're trying to have decent prices, right? After all, if you want to charge a higher retainer, nobody's going to accept that through a cold call. Just doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't, Dylan wouldn't, and I don't think anyone wouldn't. A plumber surely wouldn't, right? So sell the meeting, not the service. And the whole idea here is just push them into the next step in your pipeline. From the cold call, that's going to be to the meeting, right? That is one of the main takeaways that, hey, you need this, trust me, right? And then one thing that I also noticed here is when I was just doing a lot of cold calls, I just go through the whole list with Google Maps, and I just noticed a pattern where the only people who were booking in with me were decently sized companies where they're just not too big to a point where they have their own internal marketing system and not too small to a point where they could afford me, right? Because if you get on a call with someone and you're gonna charge them $200 per month retainer, you can't really scale that to 10 grand per month, right? Let's say 250 per month. That's gonna be so many more customers than if you just charge 2,500 per month. For the 2,500, you only need four guys to say yes to hit that 10K per month. But for that 250, it's going to be a lot more. So removing huge companies that chances are they won't hire than that. This doesn't mean it's impossible, but if we're trying to optimize for bookings per 100 dials, we need to remove them, right? And removing really small guys to make sure that your time is not wasted because you only have 24 hours a day and there's so many business hours to call them and try to get in touch with the owner and book them in, right? And go ahead.
Another thing I want to add to on that, which you can do to double down and get even more appointments booked and make even more money with your cold calling, is that once you've removed the smaller companies and you remove the bigger companies and you've niched down, so you figured out the exact type of company within your niche that you're trying to target, make sure that you're doing an extensive amount of market research to the problems that people are having at that stage in the business. And when it comes into, you selling and what you offer and what you can do for people, make sure that you speak to the problems that they're having at their current stage. Because everybody, as we go through business, the problems that we have on day one are different than the problems that we have at 10K a month, are different than the problems that we have at 100K a month, are different than the problems that we have at $1 million a month. Right. And there is a reality in which, you and I, Meshari, and anybody watching this video could walk into Elon Musk's office, say, hey, Elon, I'll solve that problem you're having for $10 million. And Elon would say yes, because even at that level, they're still struggling with problems. That's all business is. Right. So once you've identified, okay, we're going to work with this size company, then doing research to figure out what problems they're having at that stage and wrapping and presenting our offers to be a solution to the problems that we know that they're having when they're at that stage in the company.
100%. And no matter what kind of person it is, there's always going to be a problem that people are having, right? Your main goal is figuring out that problem and solving it for them, right? That's the whole goal here. That's where you sell their service. That's what they're paying for you to solve that problem. Whether it's they don't have enough calls, you get them the calls. Whether it's estimates, you get them the estimates. You want to fill up their gym, they need people, right? Whatever the problem you're solving, that's your goal. And if you niche down, you could make your problem so defined and it's going to be much easier to sell at that point. So here, I also have some of the common pitfalls that a lot of people face. One of the main ones, which was just, this was me at the very beginning. I was I was not tracking data, and one thing I realized when I joined the inner circle, and I just get on these calls and I ask them like, "Hey, I need to book more people in." He says, "Share your screen and show me how many dials you did, and how many people booked, and how many people you pasted." And I'm like, "What?" Because it was I didn't have anything. I was just calling, I didn't know how many dials I did a day, right? So it just didn't make any sense. And it just completely switched my mindset. It's like, hey, I need to track everything to know what's working and what's not working. This doesn't limit itself to cold calling. Like even now, with the amount of sales that I have, you need to track how many people closed and everything else. So no matter what you're doing, you should always be tracking data. Cold calling, you want to make sure you're optimizing really well, so there is no reason you're not tracking data, which is one of the main things that you should do. You want to know how many people did you dial, from those people, how many picked up? From those people that picked up, how many of them were not the right person? So if it wasn't the owner, it was a gatekeeper, you want to mark that. And from the people that were the right person, how many of them did you push? Did you pitch? And the ones that you pitched, how many of them booked in? Right? Gives you 5 different data points, and it really just shows you where you need to get better, and getting better day by day at whatever is the bottleneck in your cold calling is one of the best ways that I've done. This is the only reason one day I was able to book 10 people in from 90 dials. At the beginning, I was doing like 150, 200 dials. I had to guess because I didn't have data, and I was booking in 0 people. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So at some point, you just need to get so much better, and that just comes by tracking the data, knowing what's working and what's not working.
Building a business without data is like driving a car with your eyes closed. You might have your foot on the gas, but you don't know where you're going and you don't know when to make left or right hand turns, and you're probably going to end up crashing and burning.
100%. You don't want that, right? So another thing that I really want to mention is the results that you're getting is probably in the work that you're avoiding. I'm not saying this to, be cliche or anything else, but this is just as straightforward as it could be. If you want more bookings, you need to do the dials. There is no way around it. You need to do it. So stop ignoring it, right? If you want to have a good physique, you need to go to the gym. If you want to bulk, you need to eat more. There's so many things where you can't skip it, right? It's then one of the main things is, if you want to get results, you need to be willing to do the work to get those results, right? You can't do it no other way. It doesn't make any sense, and there is no reason that you are doing 50 dials to 100 dials even, and expecting to get 5 or 10 people booked in per day. You need to double the amount of volume that you're putting in, which is actually ties in with the second point, which is, if there's one thing I want you to take away, is do more volume. Volume, volume, volume. There is no many things that could, do better than just actually doing volume. If you do volume, no matter what tone you have, what script you have, you're gonna end up booking people in. It just, there is no way around it. Just like, the results that you're looking for are in the work you're avoiding. The people who you want to book in, you need to do volume to find those people. I used to cold call from nine in the morning, and I'm in Eastern Standard Time, by the way, from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. 9 in the morning, I'd call people in my time zone, and 8 at night, I'd be calling people in Pacific time zone because it'd still be 5 in the afternoon. So plumbers are still answering the phone, and like I could only imagine, the things that I would do even more if I could look back to get more dials out, right? Stop ignoring everything. Lock yourself in a room, get the dials, and then you can do whatever you want. Nobody cares. But just get the fucking dials out. Trust me, you need to get them out. And those first 150 dials, you're going to be worried you're not going to have answers to the questions that they throw, objections, and everything. And you could only get better by doing volume, right? Write down whatever questions and objections they throw at you. Have the answers ready, and look for ways to just skip that objection for it to never come up, and then if it does come up, you already have the answer, which makes it so much easier, right? So with more volume, you're just going to get better and you're going to know what to expect. And, the goal is always just keep working. Just like the goal in business is to stay in business, the goal being married is to stay married, right? Same thing here. The goal here is to keep working
Yeah.
and build towards your dream, build towards whatever you want to do, right? So for me, I want to make
No.
sure I could systemize this thing and pull myself out from cold calling and doing service delivery and just manage. Now that I know how to do that, that's my main problem now, right? And hey, if you have a solution, I'd be looking forward to it. So the goal is to keep working. It's not my time. I started working at 7, right? And I'm still probably going to be working till, you know, 10 or 12 my time, right? And to me, this is just, I genuinely enjoy this. So if your goal is not to keep working and you're trying to get rich quick, you might as well just click off this video because I'm sure nobody would want that, right? If you're trying to get rich quick, Dylan wouldn't probably want to work with you if I had to guess. Would you? Exactly. So
No.
if
No.
you're just trying to get rich quick, I don't know what to say, man, other than just pray and hope for it, right? And then here I just have some of my frameworks. I don't have a specific script because if I give you a script, it's not gonna work. But if I give you a framework, you're able to build off that framework. Now, the first 10 seconds are the most important. That will dictate the rest of the call. And if you fuck up the first 10 seconds, you can't expect them to book in, right? They're probably gonna hang up on you. So make sure you dial in that first 10 seconds to stand out and to give them a reason to keep listening to you. And after those first 10 seconds, that's when you hit them with value, right? Give them a reason to even keep listening some more. Tell them things they didn't know, things they could do better, you know? What are some ways that they could get more calls, right? So things like that that would help you so much and giving them a reason to just stay on the phone because that is what you want, right? After that, that's where some objections are gonna come up, you know, hey, I got someone working for me just like the guy above, or they can't handle more work, or they're not interested, or their dog died. No matter what, more times than not, it's just bullshit excuses to get you off the phone, right? Because if you were on the phone and you were telling them, hey, I'll give you $1 million, and they knew 100% you were gonna do it, they're not gonna get off the phone, right? They're gonna make time. They're gonna skip the funeral, whatever it's gonna be, right? They'll do it. But if you're telling them, hey, I'll get you more calls, you haven't provided value, you haven't given them a reason to listen, they don't trust you, you can't expect them to stay on the phone, right? And at the end, this is when you book them in. This is one of the main problems that I want to dial down on, and Dylan and Ryan helped me a lot with this. I was booking people in at my convenience, right? I was the one calling them. I was the one asking for the meeting, and then I was the one booking at a time where it was convenient for me. It just doesn't make any sense, and that hurt my show up rate, which obviously hurt my closing rate, which hurt everything else, right? Which doesn't make any sense. So one of the main things that you should switch is rather than saying, "Hey, I got X time open," just say, "When are you free today or tomorrow?" Right? When you say when, it's not like if, where it's a yes or a no. When you're saying when are you free, you're asking for a specific time that they're open in their calendar, right? So chances are they're gonna give you answer and a good answer when you're asking for a question when they are free. And if they give you a time, then that they said, chances are they're gonna show, right? Unless they spit out, hey, I'm free 9 a.m. on Monday, they're probably just trying to get off the phone, right? So making sure you book them in at the right time for them and a time that's convenient for them, right? So that is one of the main things that helped me a lot with my show up rate. And a lot of the show up rate has to do with how you end off your cold call. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean that's yeah. I mean you said it best there, right? Like, a lot of times when we ask people and try to hold the frame of like, oh, I'm so busy, so I'm only available at like 2 p.m. First of all, they're probably not also available at 2 p.m., which means they may book you in, but then they're probably not going to show up. And second of all, they know that you're not so busy because you're sitting around fucking cold calling all day long. If you were actually so busy and actually had a packed calendar, you would be at the point in your company where you're probably not cold calling anymore. Right. So trying to hold frame on an outbound approach like a cold call just doesn't work. And it's better to lean into the frame that we currently have going into the call.
100%. And here at the end, to kind of end this off, I have some of the main takeaways, main key takeaways. One of the first things is just sound human, be relaxed, After all, if it really does go south, you could hit next and go to the next dial, right? So just relax, do the cold call, and enjoy the fucking process. Because after all, I think a couple of years from now, I'd look at back at this time, and I would genuinely enjoy it. Because I already feel that way about a couple months ago, right? So just enjoy it while you're in it, and it's gonna get better. The second takeaway is provide value. Always offer something useful to keep them interested. That will help you build trust, build authority, and address their needs. Tell them, hey, this is what I see you're missing. This is what's going to solve it. And this is what the results that you should be expecting, right? Give them a reason to listen. And two, the other takeaways, stop being desperate. Stop begging for bookings. Maintain where you're confident, detach from the end result, and optimize for the success, right? Always sell the meeting, not the service. You're on a cold call to get them into the next step in your pipeline, not to get the payment, right? So just get them to the next step in the pipeline. Focus on setting appointments rather than selling over the phone, and use cold calling as, just a discussion for later, almost like a discovery for the meeting, right? The whole goal is to get them into the next step. I think I've said that enough. The other thing I want to say is qualify your leads before you call them. Huge companies, small companies, remove them. Make sure you're getting the right people that you want to call. You could have a list of 1,000 plumbers, and for me, it usually filters down to 100 to 200 that I can then call, right? The other takeaway is track your data, right? If you don't know what you're doing, just like Dylan, when at one of our first calls, he said, pull up your sheet. I didn't have a sheet to pull up, right? Track your data. Make sure you know what you're doing. And from there, you're going to know for every 100 dials, how many appointments should I be expecting? And from how many appointments do I have? How many are going to show? From those people, how am I going to close? That just gives you almost like an input to exit value, right? So how many people do you need to dial to get a sale, right? And that just kept me motivated, honestly, because I knew at some point it's going to click and I'm going to sell someone, right? The other thing is now that you have that formula, you need to get as many people jammed in, right? Because you know how many dials you need to do to close someone. Just try to jam in as much dials as you can into there. Do as many dials, and trust me, it's gonna work wonders, right? And then after all, just embrace the grind. Trust me, just not saying this to be cliche, but this is genuinely what I love to do. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're probably gonna love it too. And the whole goal is to keep working, right? And have flexible schedule time, right? Don't schedule them at a time where you're convenient, because you know it just doesn't work that way. You're calling them to book them in, right? You're getting the benefit when you sell them, right? So why book them in at a time where it's convenient for you? To just book it at a time where it's convenient for them, where it's gonna help you with everything else in the back end, right? And just remember, the right mindset combined with everything that I went through will lead to success in your cold calling effort. Just keep working, and it's gonna click at some point. And focus on your goals. That's what I have to say.
Alrighty. Well, that
Thank you.
was really good. I think there's going to be a lot of people out here in my audience that are going to get a lot of value out of this. And it's really cool because one of the big reasons why I wanted to bring you on is like, I think there is a little bit of that phenomenon. And sometimes I hear, people, leave comments or something like that. And like, there's a little bit of maybe a disconnect from like, somebody who's, earlier on in their phase and, maybe we're like me and Noah are at now. But I think bringing you on who, where we might be 4 or 5 steps ahead of them, you are 2, 3 steps ahead of them and kind of serve as an intermediate between where a lot of people are and where you are is going to be really valuable. And I think, obviously this is real time. This is working today. You closed 2 people today. We just crossed like 12, 13, 14K a month with this. We started the agency like 2 months ago. Like this is as real as it gets. This is real time. So yeah, I mean, thanks for the
Least I
time that
could
you've
do.
taken to share the value that you've had. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you don't, do you have any final words?
Final words is this happened too quickly for me. I wasn't expecting to go from basically nothing to where I'm at so quickly, right? So if you're in a situation where you think this is gonna take years, getting from where you are to where I am, and getting from where I am to probably where Dylan is, with people that have already done it multiple times over and over and help people that are in your situation get to where you want to be, trust me, it gets so much easier and it goes by so much faster than I expected. I started off this summer, after just taking a summer of college, school is over. I didn't expect it to be ending it here, and we're halfway through with summer. It's July, right? August isn't even here. We're halfway through July. So it doesn't make sense how I went from nothing to here, and I could only imagine where I'm going to be in a couple months, and I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, appreciate everybody who took the time to watch this video. Hope you got 10x the value in comparison to the time that you invested watching the video. My only wish to you is the best of your business. And if you have any questions, drop a comment below and I'll personally